Hey there, drone fans. Rick here again from Drone Valley. In today's clip, I'd like to review the brand new Me2 drone from our friends over at Xiaomi. Now, you guys know I review a wide variety of products on this channel, and I love flying drones. So any chance I get to sneak out for an afternoon and put something new up in the air, I'm all over it. So when I heard that Xiaomi was coming out with their own pocket drone or selfie drone, I had to order one right away. It just arrived today, and I'm going to tear open the box and show you what you get in the package. I'm going to take it outside and fly it. I'll put some footage up and show you what it looks like up in the air, and then I'll come back and do some conclusions at the end. Now, this category of drone, this sort of smart, small drone, is really exploding. I did a review a little while ago on the Rise Tello. I've got a few more clips coming on that. This drone has got a tremendous amount of sophistication built in, and there seems to be 5 or 6 other leaders in the space that are building these smaller drones. And I think it's a really good thing because even though it's not as sophisticated and it certainly can't fly as far as some of the bigger drones I fly, I love the fact that they're stable in the air, they're intelligent. A lot of them, like this one, have VIO, so it's incredibly good when it's flying. But I also like the fact that I can fly it inside the house, because a lot of the days where it's raining, I can't get outside and fly, and I start to get itchy fingers. I want to put something up in the air. So having something small like this that I can fly around the house and not have to worry about knocking a lamp over is a really good thing. I also think it's a positive thing for the hobby because the less expensive the drones get and the more of them that are out there in consumer hands, the less fear the public has of the quads that we fly. So I think when they become commonplace, where every kid in America is flying them, every grandfather and grandmother are flying them, I think it'll be a better thing for all of us. So let me start with an unboxing. I'm not going to actually tear open the box. I've already got the stuff out because I can't wait to get into it and start flying it. But inside the box, you're going to get everything you see in front of me here on the table. The quad itself is really small. It's really well built. It's very, very compact. You've got an ultrasonic sensor on the bottom. You've got VIO on the bottom as well. You've got a camera on the front. This is a 720p camera, so it does pretty good filming, when it's up in the air, video and footage. And again, it's got 4 propellers. These are brush motors on the quad. Inside this bag, you've got 4 propeller guards. These snap on the outsides of the quad. And again, I use them when I'm in the house because if I'm trying to learn how to fly it or I'm flying it out of the room into the living room or something, I'm going to run into something and I don't want to be busting a propeller. So I keep the propeller guards on. When I'm outside, I may take them off because they do make the craft a little bit wonky to fly, especially if there's any kind of breeze out there. But it's nice that they're removable. Here's the battery. Now, this is an interesting battery because it doesn't look like the standard quad battery. It's circular in form, but underneath it's got a square section that actually fits inside the quad. And just looking at it for the first time, I can see that it snaps in on top, and it looks like on the back, and I'll do a close-up of this, on the back there's a bit of a tab down there that must line up with that slot in the back. There you go. So it just pops down inside the quad and you'll hear it click closed. In here you've got a cable. Let's see what they give you there. It's probably a charging cable. Yeah, it's a charging cable. So it's a USB-A on this side, full-size USB-A, and a USB, micro USB on this end. So you can use this to charge up the drone. And the drone itself has got a micro USB connection on the side. So basically you plug that into a wall charger, plug it in here, and you can charge the drone. I don't think there's a way to charge the battery directly. Let me pull it out real quick and take a look. I think you have to charge it inside the quad. So there's the battery. Yep, I don't see a way to charge that directly. So I'll have to look into it. There's probably a charger you can buy as an aftermarket accessory, and I'll look into that. And if they make those available, maybe we'll pick one up and test that as well. Okay, inside here we've got the propellers, and it looks like there are 6 propellers inside there. And those propellers look like you've got a full set of 4, and then you've got extras, spares, if you will, for the ones that you're eventually going to break, I guarantee it. So let me get the prop guards out too and give you a feel for what those look like. But with the propellers, I can see already that the difference between them are some of the propellers are pure white and some of them have a red dot on them. So I'm sure there's a way to identify, and again, the first time I'm looking at this, I'm sure there's a way to identify which motor it fits on, but I'll do a blow up of this as well. But you can see that's got a red dot on the end of it. That one does too, and that's a white one. So on this one, I've got a red dot in the top, and this one it's pure white. And I'll look real quick at the motors. I don't see anything on the sides. Oh, here we go, on the top. So on the top of the motors, you've got a red ring on both of these guys. So obviously the red one goes on there and the white one goes on there. It is nice that they give you 6. Would have been nicer to get 8, but okay, 6 is good. So when I run into something, I've got a spare set to pop one off and pop another one on. They're just friction fit on top of the quad. Here are the 4 propeller guards. Those snap on the ends. That was easy. Just pop them on the ends like this. And again, I don't think there's any orientation to them. They all seem to be exactly the same. So you just gently push it over the edge, clip them down, you'll hear them snap into place. Oops, missed the bottom on that one completely. All right. It's always the last one you got to wrestle with. There we go. All right, so there's your 4 propeller guards. So it does make it a little bit larger when you're flying it with the propeller guards on, but man, flying in the house, I'm gonna run into a ton of stuff. So having those on means I'm not gonna nick the wall and scratch up the paint or knock over a lamp. So I'll be using those quite a bit. And here's the manual. Now, one of the pet peeves I have with this manual, and it's my fault, I needed this thing so early that I ordered it from a distributor that obviously brought it in from China. The entire manual's in Chinese. I can't read any of this, so I don't know what they're saying. I'm sure there's a lot of really good information in the manual. I don't have an English version of it. I'm going to grab it off the web and download it and print it out, but they give you a complete manual. It talks about how to start it, how to charge it, how to fly it. All the things I'm assuming you get in a manual are in there, but I'm faking it because I don't read Mandarin, so I can't tell what they're saying in the manual. But anyway, there's a manual in the box. I'm sure if you buy it from a US distributor, you're probably going to get an English manual with it. But that's basically what comes in the box. So let's talk a little bit about the quad, and then I want to get outside and fly this thing because, man, it sure looks cool. It's got a really unique design. It's different than most quads where you've typically it's got a circular body on it, which is kind of nice. And it looks a little like a crab almost, but it's got a circular body on it. Most of them have long bodies, obviously with arms pointing off the 4 sides. So it's a bit of a unique design. The quad itself, like I mentioned, has got a 720p camera on the front, so it does okay footage. It's not digitally stabilized and there's no gimbal inside this thing, so it's going to shake pretty good when it's up in the air. So I imagine the pictures will be okay. I don't know if the video is going to be great. It'll probably be a little bit shaky when you have it up there, but again, until I get it outside and fly it, I can't really comment on what the quality looks like. It's got VIO, so that's visual inertial odometry, which is a technology a lot of the new quads are using. And essentially what that does is it has a camera focused on the ground and it can get a rough approximation of what's below it. And as it moves, it compares what it saw a second ago to what it's seeing now to kind of keep it stable. So if it's hovering, it's looking down and trying to keep that pattern stable underneath it. That's pretty nice. You get about 10 minutes of flight time out of it. The specs say that it takes about an hour to charge the battery. I haven't done that yet, so I'll charge it and I'll time that and let you know how that goes. But 10 minutes of flight time is pretty average. For a quad of this size, the battery's not that big. I'm sure you can buy extra batteries and probably an external charger to take it from there. It's got 4 gigs of internal storage. So once you put this thing up and start recording it, it'll record it to the quad, and then through the application, you'll download it to your phone to save those photos and clear up the storage that's on there. There is a limit on it. It can fly 25 meters up and 50 meters out. It's a Wi-Fi based connectivity, so obviously the phone you're using has a big impact on how far the thing can fly, because most of the phones you're going to use have a Wi-Fi antenna inside of it that isn't really designed to broadcast for long distances out there. So your mileage is going to vary obviously with whatever phone you're using, but Wi-Fi connection is pretty common for a smaller quad like this. So again, we'll get it outside and take a look at it. One other thing I liked a lot about this quad when I was reading through the manual online was that you can limit how far it flies. So inside the application, you can actually slide a bar down to limit it maybe flying only 10 meters and maybe only going up 8 meters. And that's really good, because if you're trying to fly with younger people, or maybe somebody who hasn't flown before, or maybe you've got kids that want to get into the hobby, I like limiting how far they can take the quad, because if I just let them go crazy, that quad's going to head off for the horizon, get stuck in a tree, and then for the next half hour, we're trying to climb a ladder to get it down. So limiting it to sort of maybe a 10 meter down and a 10 meter up gives them the experience of flying, but it doesn't let them get into too much trouble. So I do like that an awful lot. There is provisions in there for an external controller. Now, I haven't played with any of this yet, but I'm going to experiment with that as well. A lot of the quads, including the Tello, give you the ability to tether sort of through Bluetooth an external game controller to the actual phone you're using to fly it, or tablet you're using to fly it. So I do want to test that out and see if that helps a little bit. That won't increase the distance you can fly, but it will give you that tactile feedback you get from those joysticks. So all in all, pretty cool. So all right, that's pretty much it for the kit. Again, under $100. I think it competes very well with the Tello. I'm going to put it outside and fly it, and then I'll do follow-on clips where I go into deeper diagnostics and talk about what the application looks like and all the settings inside the application. But I can't pack that all on one clip, or it'll be an hour and a half. So this is sort of just an unboxing. I'll do some close-ups now and show you what the quad looks like when it's right up against the camera. I'll take it outside and fly it a little bit, and then I do want to talk about the application, because one thing that's confusing about this quad is that Xiaomi, or Xiaomi, I always mispronounce that because it sounds like it should be Xiaomi, but it's Xiaomi, has a couple of different applications, because they've had some Mi-copters out before where the application would fly those. This is a brand new application, so I'm going to show you 2 screenshots in a minute. One of them is the right application, one is the wrong application, and I'll put some sort of markings on there where you can find them online to make it easy for you to get the right application. So stay tuned and we'll do some close-ups next. Now I'll take a closer look at the Me2, and I'll point out a few things that'll help you get this quad outside and up in the air as quickly as possible. Let's start with the propellers. Adding the propellers to the Me2 is really straightforward, but I'll go through it just in case it's your first quad and you haven't done it before. You'll notice there are two sets of propellers. This set has a red dot on it. This set is purely white. And what that indicates is that there's a difference between them. One of these sets spins clockwise when it's on the motors. The other set spins counterclockwise. And figuring out which motor to stick it on is really a matter of looking at the dot and then finding the motors that have a red ring on them. You'll see that if you look closely, and I'm not sure you can see that, I'll have to do a blow up, I guess, but this motor's got a red ring on the outside of it, and so does this one. You'll find that to be true for all the quads you're going to fly, that the opposite motors typically have the same style of propeller on them, and that's important because it counterbalances clockwise and counterclockwise this direction to keep the quad level. So now that I know that this one and this one are red, all I have to do is take this and gently push it over the stem, just down far enough where it's actually sitting on the bottom of the motor there. You don't want to push too hard on it, you just want to put it down and let the friction of that sliding down the shaft hold it on there. The other thing I'll recommend too is I've seen guys do this in their hands, but I like to have it on a flat surface like this to make sure that I've got plenty of support underneath, so when I'm pushing down I'm not going to bend that motor shaft or damage the motor at all. Alright, so once those propellers are on there, you're pretty much ready to go, but let me take a minute and show you some of the other things that are on here. So on this side you've got the power button. That's the one you're going to want to push, and you'll see the lights come on the bottom when it's ready to fly. On this side, there's another button. Now, when I first got this was a little confusing because I was hitting this one all the time to turn it on. It turns out this is the one for power. I'll explain that one in a minute. On this end, you've got the camera. Now, one thing I would recommend is make sure that you keep this clean, because the tendency is to grab this thing when you're picking it up. You'll get fingerprints across the front of that, and that'll really interfere with the quality of the video you're recording. So I always take my sleeve and wipe that off before I put it up in the air. All right, so this button over here is the release button for the battery. So when you hit this, watch that battery edge right there, the battery on the top. See how it pops a little bit loose? Once you hit that button, you've unhinged the battery. Then you can lift the battery off the quad at that point and lift it out and change out the battery. Now, when I first got this, I took a good look at it and I realized there's a little clip right over here, and that clip fits in that little hole. And I've seen other people sort of demonstrate this. Just put the battery in and kind of mash it down, but you're going to crack that back hinge assembly over there, that little tab on the back. So you've got to be very careful when you put this thing in. You want that tab to sort of slide down inside that slot first. So the way I install it is basically put that in the hole first and then lean it forward once I've got it in that hole. So what that is clipped into the back, I then slide it down in the front and push down gently, and it's married up with the bottom of that. And then I'm sure I've got the battery in there fully. And that's pretty much it. Once you've got that installed, as long as the battery's fresh, go back to your application, marry up with this, so tether up with the drone, and you're off and flying. Finding the right application for flying the Me2 can be a little bit tricky, and if you go out there and just search against Xiaomi, you'll end up with this first application, which was really designed to fly some of their other quads, but it won't work with the Me2. So if you see this application in the store, that's not the one you want to download. This is the application you want, and I thought to make it easier for you, I'll actually put up a QR code that you can scan. So if you want to get this application, pause the video right now, scan that code, it'll take you right to the store to download the application in the Apple Store. Here again is the same code if you're an Android flyer. So just pause the video at this point, scan that code, it'll take you to the Play Store for the Android product, and you can download the application. I did this to try and make it easier for you, because anything I can do to get you guys outside and flying those quads quicker is a good thing for all of us. So hopefully you find this part helpful. So when you first spin up the application, you'll notice on the main screen you've got two virtual joysticks you're using. You've also got an auto launch button right over here. If I hit that, the drone will take off and it'll actually hover at about 4 feet in the air. So let me hit that. It's going to confirm that you want to do that. Once I do, the drone will come up. Now the first thing it's going to do is try to find some stable position it can stay at, and it's now found its stability. So let me fly it back over to where we can see it. All right, so there's the drone, and you can notice right away how stable that is. It's doing a little bit of elevation change, and that's mostly because the wind is moving around a little bit. That butterfly is terrorizing it there in the screen. Hopefully it doesn't get too close to it. So let me spin it. You can see that I can move it left and right, forward and back. I can elevate and spin. And go forward again. So it's got a lot of stability. I'm really impressed with just how stable that thing is in the air. Let me sink it down a little bit so we can get a closer look at it. So again, I can spin it. There's my rotation. And then let me spin it around this direction. Get some footage here. So I'm going to turn on the recording mode so I can actually capture some footage here. And then let me try and do a couple of tricks. So it does flip. If you hit the flip button on the front, right here, you'll notice that there are a couple of different flip options. So now that I've got that flip button set up, I can either go forward or sideways. Let me do a forward flip.
Wow, that's great. And what's cool about it too is once it does the flip, it again takes a second to reorient itself to see, where it is and stabilize it. Let me do a back flip. Back flip, really nice. That whole flip took place in about 1.5 feet worth of airspace. Let's do a sideways flip. This one will be kind of cool. So that's really nice because what it does is actually elevate enough so that when the flip is finished, the space it took up during that flip is pretty much how high it went up. So it goes up far enough to actually complete the flip and almost land exactly where it was in air. Now let me just show you how quick this thing is. And I don't have it fully flat out because I'm still getting used to flying it, but I'll be honest, I'm really, really impressed with the stability of this quad, because if I move it in one direction and stop, it actually brakes very smoothly. And it's pretty quiet too. When I'm listening to it this far away, I can hardly hear the sound that that quad is making. So I like it an awful lot. Now I've got it set up today with a very limited range because it's the first time I'm flying it outside. Not that I'm afraid I'm going to crash it into something, but I wanted to see if it'll actually hit the end of the barrier and stop, and it does. And you can go into the application and increase that distance. I think that's a great feature to have inside the application, because if you're a new flyer or you've got a son or a daughter who's going to be flying the quad, you might want to limit them to an open area, your backyard or a field you're flying in, and that way they can get used to flying the quad, not have to worry about a flyaway. So let me see how good I can land this thing. So I'm going to come back over top of that landing pad. Now, if I bring her down a little bit, just to make sure I'm close, then hit the auto land button right here. It'll confirm I want to auto land. Puts it right back down. I did pretty well. So that's pretty much it for the new Me2 quad. And I'm going to do a comparison side by side with the new product, the Tello product from DJI and Rise. But between the two, I think they both have similar functionalities. I think the distance may be a little bit better on the Tello, but I'll do a second follow-up clip where I compare them side by side to give you a real good feel for how they fly compared to each other.
In this last section, I wanted to pass along some of my impressions of the Xiaomi Mi 2 after having flown this quad for the last couple of days. I've really put it through its paces. I flew this guy indoors, I've taken him outdoors on both calm days and windy days, and I'm really impressed with the stability of this quad. I still can't get over how a quad this small can maintain its position in 3D space. Using only VIO, an altimeter, and the ultrasonic sensor on the bottom, the improvements that have been made in these quads over the last couple of months is just astounding, because a year ago, if you bought a quad this small that didn't have that kind of functionality built in, you would spend a minute or two just correcting for the drift that most quads have when you first put them up. With this one, the minute it's airborne, it's rock solid stable. I have to talk about the application too, because that's another place that most of the smaller quads fall apart. The application that you fly this thing with is full of features. It's extremely feature rich, and it gives you pinpoint control of the quad. So when you hit that joystick or the virtual joystick, the quad moves to where you want it to move. When you take your finger off, it stops in midair. It does flips. It does a real good job of filming. And again, it's not stabilized, so if it's outside on a windy day, you're going to have a little bit of a jittery footage there. But what can you ask for without having some kind of gimbal or digital stabilization inside of it? So for me, took a bunch of pictures, did a little bit of video. It's great for selfies. It's not really great if you're going to go out and try to do landscape shots and things like that. But again, it's a 720p camera, and the drone is well under $100. So for me, the value in this drone is really giving me the ability, because we've had a lot of rain here in the Northeast over the last couple of weeks, giving me the ability to fly indoors and enjoy the flight of a quad in my house and keep those stick skills sharp, and then know that I can take it outside in the back patio if I want and fly it, just have a little bit of fun. It's also a great quad for somebody looking to get into the hobby, because for less than $100, you're getting a full-sized quads experience in something this small with those virtual joysticks. Now, I promise you I'm going to come back and I'm going to do a review of the software. I'm going to try and use one of the external controllers, the Bluetooth controllers, to see if I can sync that up and fly this thing with the controller. The software is really, again, very deep and very feature rich, so I'm going to come back and probably just do a clip on that. But I really want to get your feedback on this, because again, this small quad market seems to be exploding. We've got Rise Tello, which is based on DJI and Intel technology. We've got the Xiaomi Mi 2. There's probably 4 or 5 other companies that I'm testing right now where they've got these smaller quads out. I want to get your impressions as to whether you think this quad is worth the money. I do think it's worth the $80 or $90 you're going to spend on it. I also want to hear from you guys about the accessories for this, because I'm not selling any accessories yet on the website, but if this quad is going to become popular just like the Tello, I may start stocking some accessories for it, like extra batteries and chargers and blades and all the rest of that stuff. So give me your impressions below. If you have any questions about what I've covered, please drop those in the comments below as well. I've got a link down there where you can find this guy at Amazon if you want to go out and investigate it yourself. I really love putting these kind of clips together. So let me know if you want me to do more of these review clips of the smaller quads. I spend a lot of time with the bigger quads like the Phantoms and the Mavics and all the Autel products and stuff, but I really like flying these smaller quads as well, and I've had a lot of requests to do less expensive sort of entry-level quads. So if you guys like these kind of clips, I'll continue to produce them. But again, I'm having a ton of fun putting these together, so hopefully you're finding value in the clips. That's pretty much it for today. So thanks an awful lot for watching, and until next time, happy flying.